Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Today we're going to go through how to do an import to HubSpot, and we're going to cover the sort of a quick run through for those that are new and beginners using HubSpot, and this should be very easy and straightforward to do, so please follow along. Essentially, we start with our spreadsheet. This is the list that we've got. We want to add these contacts into HubSpot, and so you edit the list as you like. I'm going to delete some of these columns, I don't need them for this demo, and you get everything looking as you wish with the various contacts aligned. Maybe you want to make changes to details, etc. Get everything looking good, and then we can then export this file as a CSV file. You can actually use Excel or CSV. I like to keep it nice and smooth by exporting as a CSV, and that way if I have multiple tabs, it'll only export the tab that I'm looking at. That just sort of saves time and headache, because when you're importing to HubSpot, you can only import a file that has a single sheet. So let's export this, download as CSV, and then that's downloading. Now let's go back into HubSpot. I've logged in, I'm on the contacts page here. On the contacts or companies or other sections, there's always this little import button. So you start by clicking this import button. If you can't see this button, it may be that you don't have the required permissions in your account if you're a user of a larger HubSpot account. But if you're one of the admins of the account, or if you've been given permission, you'll be able to see this little button. So you click that and you go to the import page. Now on this page, you can see the past imports. If you scroll down, and you can see, you can actually click on them and view the contacts that were added in those imports, or the different records that were added in and who added them in. But we're gonna go to this Start Import button here. You click that, and then you select Import File from Computer. There are other options here, and we could go through them in another video. But for today, we're just going to do the simplest, quickest way to import contacts into your account. So we click Import from Computer, and actually you can use your keyboard to click Enter or Return on this screen to go straight through rather than clicking over here at Next. You can see if I click Next here in HubSpot, it actually tells you this little trick as well. So you can just click Enter. So now I'm on this page. I can select one file or multiple files. For this straightforward run through, I'm just going to select one file because we're only going to be importing from this single file. And click Next. And then we're only importing one kind of object, which are contacts, the contact object. HubSpot's made up of different objects. You've got contacts, companies, deals, and these objects have different associations. I've actually done another video which explains this in a lot more detail, so I'll link to that. So you can always check that out. But today we're just going to keep it simple, and we click on one object, which will be the contact object, contacts, and then we need to select which object we're talking about. So obviously we're going to select contacts here. You can ignore the rest of it. We'll go through that again some other time. Click Next. Now we drag the file and drop it here. We can either choose a file by clicking that, or I can just find that file that I just exported as CSV. I'm just going to drag that in like so. You can choose here how you want to import these contacts. If you want to just create new contacts, update the existing contacts, we're going to do all of it in one go. So normally you can just leave this as it is. Same object associations as if you're creating relationships between within contact to contact, and we're not going to need to do that for this, so you can leave that unticked, and then you can select the language for your column headers as well. So if you're doing it in English, it should be default, or maybe it will default to your account language. But you can see here, pretty much you don't need to do anything on this page. Just drop the spreadsheet, the CSV file in here, and then you can click Next, and then we'll upload, and HubSpot will actually make the effort to find the relationships between your column header in the spreadsheet and the various HubSpot properties that exist. So you can basically save a bit of time here, but you do have to be a bit careful that you've got the exact same property being associated to that column header, and you might have some that are very similar, and there is a chance that HubSpot will select the wrong one. So it's always good to have a little run through of this and just double check everything has been associated to the correct property, as you would expect. These properties here, if you're creating a new property, it's good to have a first name and last name. And so you can basically, what it's saying here with HubSpot is that it can be used to create a new record. So usually there should be a first name and last name, and then you must have an email when you're doing this kind of import. If it's not a list of contacts that you've previously exported from HubSpot, where you're associating based on a HubSpot ID. If it's a new list, or in general, you can always just use email as a unique identifier. So it's best if you have an email. If you didn't have an email address for a contact, it would just create a new contact each time you do an import, because it wouldn't know which contact it should be updating. So it's always good to have an email column, and ideally all of your accounts, all of your records in your account should have an email wherever possible. Otherwise, you'll have a lot of duplicate contacts being created each time you import. And then you've got all these other properties here, so I can see everything is aligned. There is something chosen for the particular column. That's that. If you had something that wasn't correct and you didn't want to associate it and import it, you can skip the import by clicking Don't Import Column, like this. So if we wanted to skip this persona column, we can click Don't Import Column. But ultimately we want to have everything mapped. We can see here we've got this extra value down here. It's not mapped to anything. There's no tick, actually also for this one. So we can either change the drop down here to Don't Import Column, or we can tick this little box down here, Don't Import Data in the unmapped, two unmapped columns, like so. That's why it's not an orange button here. So we can just tick that. Another thing we can do as well is tick this Don't Overwrite. So for example, if you already have really good data in your database and you don't want to override it with the import, maybe you're not sure if the details are as good for that particular property, then you can always tick Don't Overwrite. So we'll only update if that property is blank in HubSpot, or if it's creating a new property. A new contact. But otherwise, it will just skip adding or replacing the first name for those contacts or those records. So that's this screen. Now let's click Next. And then on this final page, we can change the import name if you want. I like to keep my import name the same as the file so that I can keep track of which file I imported, and I can maybe go back to that file and see if there was some error. But it's up to you, and you can always change the import name, or you can add a bit of text at the start or something like that. This is only an internal value, and it's just more for organizing things, and you won't really need to worry too much about the name here. From this screen as well, we can also create a list with this import. So you can go straight into creating a list, and we also need to make sure we tick this box here to say that the contacts are expecting to hear from the organization. So these contacts have already been in my database, and so they've already, mine are actually demo contacts, so they're not real people. But if they were in the database, they would have already given some approval for me to contact them. So that is fine in this case. It's always best to use lists of contacts that you have permission to contact. It's not good practice to be using lists that you've purchased or found from some other location. And depending on your account and your marketing contacts level, then you may also have a box here to mark that contact as a marketing contact so that you can send them an email directly. Because I'm in a demo account now, I don't have that option here, but normally you would have this option because in HubSpot, you have a certain number of marketing contacts that you're included in your plan. And this is how you would allocate them as marketing contacts. So now that's done, we click Finish Import. And then we can see this sort of summary screen, which shows up with the details. And depending on the number of rows that you're importing, you'll see the number here, 62. We can see that we've got no new records created. 62 records were updated. There is one contact with a formatting issue. And I can also click on More. And if I wanted to, I could view the contact list. I can add it to an imported list at this stage. And I can also download the contacts file like that. So let's have a look at this formatting issue. Okay, great. So we can see here the last name is suspicious because it just has one letter. So HubSpot proposes that we can remove that name so that we can actually fill it in with a full name at some point, which is probably a good practice. This is just a demo account, so I'm going to skip that, but a good example there. And let's add it to a list as well, just to finish off this example. We can select here, add 62 imported contacts to a list. We can create a new static list. We can choose an existing list. We can have a new active list. So let's try a new static list, and it'll just throw it straight into a list. And we can basically say key leads or whatever you wish, Australia, for example. And then we've got a new list saved like so. So that's it. And as I said earlier, it's just go here to import, and you can see all the imports that you've done. And we can see the past imports like that. And we can also use this import feature to import companies and deals and other functionality in HubSpot as well. So let me know if that's been helpful. If you have any questions or if you want me to go through how to do it for companies and deals, please let me know and I can do so in a future video. If you have any feedback, please leave the comments below. And I'd love to also get any feedback in terms of if you like this video, please click like. And if you want to see more videos about HubSpot and Zapier and other similar kinds of sales and marketing automations and other things that can help your business, please subscribe and you'll definitely get more of those coming up in the future. So thanks again. I hope you've enjoyed the video and look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.